Greetings to the anointed. The devil's greatest deception was convincing the world he didn't exist. But society's second best trick? Making you feel like the problem. They call you insane, a troublemaker. Not because you are, but because you see too much, know too much, and refuse to play dumb. That makes them nervous. Most people prefer a comfortable lie over an uncomfortable truth. You are the alarm clock they didn't want, and they would rather stay asleep. You were never meant to fit in. The system thrives on obedience, and a free mind like yours is its greatest threat. They label you dangerous, not because you are, but because you are free. The chosen ones have always been feared and misunderstood. But remember, their resistance isn't about you. It's about their fear of facing reality. Stay the course. You are not here to fit in. You are here to wake them up. And let's face it, nobody enjoys being woken up, particularly if they were dreaming of a life that never was. What makes you their target then? When all you did was speak the truth, why do they call you the issue? It's that simple. You cruelly expose their inability to keep up with their own falsehoods. You're just surrounded by individuals who are afraid of reality. You're not insane. Prepare yourself for the most honest, realistic explanation of why the chosen ones are constantly misinterpreted, feared, and assaulted. First of all, you are a mirror that shatters illusions, not only a danger. The majority of people live in skillfully constructed illusions rather than reality. Denial, social affirmation, and selective memory hold their relationships, professions, and self-perceptions together like a frail house of cards. Something changes the instant you enter their world. Before they really comprehend it, they sense it. Even if you don't say anything, they are uneasy just by your presence. The issues start when they see something unusual about you, something raw, unadulterated, and wild. You see, most individuals hide certain realities in order to live. They distort reality to suit their needs, eliminating everything that makes them face their own inconsistencies. They tell themselves that their friendships are devoted, their work is rewarding, and their relationships are based on love rather than convenience. However, when you arrive, their meticulously regulated environment starts to seem less secure. It's because you live outside of their delusion, not because you openly expose them. Their illusions are different from yours. You're not a phony, and you don't skirt the facts to maintain harmony. Everyone else is forced to realize the game they're playing when someone doesn't play along. Because of this, people fear you rather than simply despise you. They are afraid that you will see right through them and call out the falsehoods they tell themselves before they get a chance to say them out. They just know that something about you makes them uncomfortable. It's not conscious, at least not first. They already know the answer, therefore, they don't want to ask themselves why. You are a mirror, but not a flattering one. You're the kind that makes them see everything they've avoided their whole life. What do they do then? They strike because they need to regain control of the illusion, not because you've done anything wrong. The simplest approach to do that? Call you the issue. Call you insane, conceited, challenging, or too passionate. It's a defensive tactic, a last-ditch effort to ensure they never have to deal with what you make so brutally clear. It's not an insult. Second, the falsehoods were always told for their own benefit, not for you. It's simple to take offense when someone lies to you. It seems like a direct assault, a betrayal, or a purposeful act intended to trick you. In actuality, however, the deception was never really about you. It was always for them. They lie to avoid having to face reality, not to deceive you. It's simply that you're in the way. Most individuals are fleeing from something, whether it is their own reflection, their failures, their fears, or their past. They create stories that help them feel better about themselves, their past, and their future. These stories just need to be credible enough to prevent their world from collapsing. They don't need to be factual. Then you appear. Someone who is not so easily duped. Someone who hears what is not being spoken. Someone who sees beyond the charade. They have an issue with it. You see, a lie is like a thin thread that holds a much larger web together. The whole construction falls apart if one component breaks. They need you to be insane, not because they really believe you to be such. It's an insult cloaked in a confession. Anyone who accuses you of being crazy for seeing what they don't see is revealing their own frailty. They acknowledge that the reality is too much for them to bear. Mental blinders are necessary for them to operate. How about you? Those blinders are being torn off by you. They despise you because they know deep down that you're right, not because you're wrong. Let them speak then. Allow them to call you as needed. Just keep in mind that if someone uses a term to silence you, they are not demonstrating your lunacy. Their own dread is being shown. Fifth, they are afraid of you because you don't dread being alone. The majority of individuals are incapable of thinking for themselves. Their whole identity is based on how other people see them. They steal views rather than creating them. They allow society to determine their identity rather than them. How much does it cost to remain accepted? Their independence, their voice, and their genuineness. To ensure they're never alone, they exchange everything. However, that's not a game you play. To feel safe, you don't need a throng. Applause is not necessary to recognize your value. You are not afraid to stand alone and be the outsider. Because you prefer to be alone with the truth, rather than surrounded by cozy falsehoods. And that? They are frightened by it. Because they secretly know they'll never be able to perform what you do. The majority of individuals are captives of social approval. What is deemed acceptable shapes their views. What's popular determines what they do. To escape criticism, they nod in agreement with ideas they disagree with. Since leaving would mean being alone, they continue to live in unhappy relationships, unfulfilling careers, and meaningless friendships. And loneliness is worse than misery for them. You are a menace because of this. They are forced to face their own weaknesses when they see you living your life without attachment to acceptance, unfazed by rejection, and unwilling to pretend. They ask themselves, how can I be so trapped and this person be so free? And they criticize you for not wanting to be confined like them, rather than reflecting on what they're doing wrong. They will accuse you of being cold, aloof, antisocial, or too intense, not because such traits are accurate, but rather because they seek a reason to avoid your cooperation. All of their beliefs are destroyed by the notion that you may be content, complete, and flourishing without them, the herd, and the continual need for acceptance. Thus, they are afraid of you, not because you offer a threat, but rather because you reveal their true vulnerability, and they will never be able to forgive it. Sixth, you don't engage in their games. You revise the regulations. Patterns, repeated, predictable, and controlled, are the foundation of the world. From infancy, people are taught to follow the script, fit in without thinking, follow without inquiry, and react when prompted. This regularity is essential to society because it makes individuals easier to control. Things go easily when someone reacts as expected, maintains the same pattern, and has the same views. However, you don't belong. You don't adhere to the plan. You revise the regulations. You are hazardous because you don't obey the rules, even though they are supposed to be under control. They are unsure of how to handle someone who doesn't respond as they had anticipated. They attempt to set you off, agitate you, and elicit emotional reactions from you. But you resist by acting in ways they can't predict. They are totally confused when you don't fall for their tricks, take their bait, or react in the way they wanted, with fear, indignation, or acquiescence. You see, the system isn't meant for creativity. It's for compliance. It assumes that individuals would abide by its rules without questioning their origins or purpose. Because it keeps you busy and makes you easier to manipulate, it expects you to pursue the things that everyone else does: status, approval, and outside validation. Rejecting all of that, however, makes you an outlier, an abnormality, and an unpredictable variable in a society that craves order. They hate you because of this. You completely modify the rules of the game, not merely refuse to play it. You undermine the framework itself, rather than arguing inside it. You create your own table instead of battling for a place at theirs. Since you are aware that their approval is only another kind of control, and that others cannot influence you when they cannot foresee you, you don't want for their praise. They dread you when they are unable to control you, because they secretly know something horrifying. You are free in a manner that they will never be. Seventh, you are a living contradiction who is hated and admired. People do both because they can't decide whether to hate or adore you. They see you as a living paradox, a place that bewilders them. They detest that they can't break you, but they appreciate your strength. They respect your genuineness but are annoyed because you don't need their approval. They strive to bring you down while also keeping a careful eye on you, studying your movements, and even copying you. It's because you reveal their internal conflicts, not because you've done anything wrong. The majority of individuals lead two lives, one for themselves and one for the world. They change their personalities according on who is looking at them while wearing masks. Despite lying to themselves on a regular basis, they claim to respect honesty. They make fun of everyone who doesn't shrink, even if they profess to respect confidence. But without uttering a word, you make them face this hypocrisy. They are reminded of everything they are not, but act like by your mere presence. There will never be a solution to this contradiction. In a society that encourages conformity, they will constantly vacillate between adoration and jealousy, respect and hatred. However, that is the cost of honesty. Ultimately, it's preferable to be misinterpreted for being authentic than to be accepted for being phony. Eighth, you give the puppeteers anxiety. The universe is controlled by mental leashes rather than actual shackles or closed doors. Humans are hardwired to follow instructions, to believe what they are taught, and to do what they are instructed. The system needs followers, not thinkers. It wants a herd, not a single person. And then there's you, the one who sees through the system and doesn't merely challenge it. You are an issue because of it. You reveal manipulation instead of just resisting it. You can tell when the stories don't fit together. You can observe the inconsistencies between what society rewards and what it supports. You see how people are kept just comfortable enough to never rebel, coerced into acquiescence, and diverted by pointless drama. Fear tactics to keep people in line, false promises of achievement, and the illusion of choice don't deceive you. The puppeteers are afraid of you because you think for yourself. Discrediting someone like you is the simplest method to disarm them, not using force. The system just needs to ensure that no one pays attention. It doesn't need to disprove you. They call you insane, tough, paranoid, and extreme because they need you to be, not because you are. They never have to confront the facts you're revealing if they can persuade others that your statements are untrue. It's a deliberate attempt to prevent minds like you from rousing up the people who are still sleeping, not paranoia. And the individuals who gain from the system are just as important as the system itself. People whose identities are based on delusions want you to be incorrect because, if you are correct, their whole universe falls apart. To avoid acknowledging that they have been duped, they will strive to defend their own deception. Because of this, you'll find that the biggest opposition comes from common people who have unwittingly turned into the system's strongest advocates. They want you to be quiet because you are correct, not because you are incorrect. and falsehoods turn into legislation when the truth becomes threatening. Number 9. Since they have nothing else, the assaults will always be personal. Weak individuals attack people rather than debate ideas. The goal is to discredit you personally so that no one will listen to whatever you have to say, not to argue facts or prove you incorrect. Actually, they wouldn't have to use slander, rumor, or social isolation if they had a strong counterargument. They have nothing else, however. They attempt to break you because they are unable to decipher your reasoning. They will go into your background, misrepresent your statements, and portray you as dangerous, unstable, or conceited. Overconfidence is referred to as narcissism. They call it hostility if you don't give up. They label you poisonous if you point out their hypocrisy. It's all about controlling the narrative, not about facts. Making sure that people pay attention to who you are rather than what you're saying is the simplest approach to do that. History demonstrates that the most disruptive ideas, those who questioned established hierarchies, were never adequately discussed. Not because they were incorrect, but rather because their beliefs were too risky to face head-on. They were vilified, mocked, banished, or worse. In daily life, the same idea holds true on a smaller scale. People who profit from lying will take offense at you the minute you establish your ground. Ironically, the assaults usually tell more about the attacker than they do about you. Someone has already lost if they have to fabricate a story, start a rumor, or use manipulation to win an argument. The fact that they are desperate to ruin your reputation is evidence that what you say matters. They wouldn't have to put in as much effort to discredit you if you were really insignificant. The objective is straightforward: demonize you, isolate you, and get you to doubt yourself. They must ensure that no one takes you seriously if they are unable to silence you. But keep in mind that the truth is real regardless of approbation. When someone uses character assassination as their only tactic, they are revealing their biggest flaw. They lack a coherent argument. Trying to keep up with their own falsehoods wears them out. Pretending to be someone they're not, leading an unfulfilling existence, and always changing their mask to match the situation are all exhausting aspects of lying. They become worn down by it. They put so much effort into maintaining an illusion that they are unable to handle it when you finally appear and stand there in your unreserved honesty. Their animosity is a response to their own exhaustion, not only to you. You remind them why they're exhausted. Every exchange, every staged grin, every well-planned moment is a show. They convince themselves that they are content, that everything is under control, and that their decisions were wise. But uncertainty is constantly there in the back of your mind. You, on the other hand, are a live contradiction to their whole facade. You refuse to comply. You don't look for approval, and worse, you're free. The last straw is that their whole way of life is predicated on never pausing to reflect too much, because, even for a moment, the fractures begin to appear. They come to the realization that they don't really enjoy their relationships, their work, their friends, or the persona they've developed. They become aware that they are caught in a vicious loop of denying their own ideas, pursuing illusions, and pleasing other people. It is infuriating to realize that. That's why when people see someone like you, their vibe changes. You make them face their own fatigue, rather than only threatening their delusion. Their struggle is amplified the more naturally you are real. They strike out rather than acknowledge the reality. They hate you, make fun of you, and to ignore you, not because they really believe you are incorrect, but rather because they are in dire need of you being so. It serves as a safeguard. If they acknowledge that you're right, they will have to confront the reality that they have been deceiving themselves, that their pleasure is fabricated, their self-assurance is phony, and their existence is based on maintaining appearances rather than living. It's simpler to make you the issue than to bear that crushing weight. However, they secretly envy your tranquility, since, despite their attacks, they are aware that you are free, while they are not. They just keep you near so they can observe you. They can't leave you alone, even if they don't like you. In public, they make fun of you, but in private, they subtly imitate you. They roll their eyes at what you say, but then they repeat it as if they came up with it first. They pretend you're nothing special, but they're constantly keeping an eye on you, lurking and observing. Why? Because they know you're ahead in their hearts. The majority of individuals lack independent thought. Because it's simpler to go with the flow than to stand alone, people follow trends, embrace viewpoints that are prescribed to them, and follow the herd. However, you are erratic. Even when you don't intend to, you lead rather than follow. They research you for just that reason. Someone who really thinks for himself is a unique and precious template in a society when most people are repeating the same beliefs. It goes without saying that they cannot accept this. That would entail acknowledging that they admire you and that they see a quality in you that they do not possess. Rather, they pass off their interest as criticism. They make fun of your self-assurance while covertly attempting to boost their own. They reject your way of thinking while gradually embracing it. They pretend that your decisions are stupid, yet they nevertheless begin making the same ones. Although it's never clear-cut or straightforward, it always occurs. What's the most hilarious part? They're doing it without even realizing it. They think they are unique and that their ideas and deeds are entirely their own. However, if you look closely, you'll see that they follow your movements, change as you do, and develop with you. Because you set the pace, whether they acknowledge it or not. For this reason, they keep you close, not as an ally or friend, but as a source of fresh viewpoints, ideas, and ways of being. Your silence is weaponry, not weakness. They anticipate that you will respond, defend yourself, debate, clarify, or provide justification. In an attempt to ensnare you in their disarray, they accuse you, spread rumors, and make cheap jabs at you. You don't bite, however. You remain mute because you don't owe anybody an explanation, not because you're weak or scared, and they go crazy about it. Emotions dominate the majority of individuals. They must establish their legitimacy, be seen as correct, and have the last say. They will engage in futile conflict only to shield their brittle egos. However, that's not a game you play. You know what they will never understand. Truth gradually stands up for itself. It just requires time. Neither a spokesman nor a debate are necessary. You wait while they strive to dominate the narrative, while they constantly contradict themselves, while they rush to defend their falsehoods. And gradually, they begin to face reality. As their contradictions mount, their own statements start to backfire, and the very individuals they are trying to persuade start to see the flaws. You're still standing precisely where you were, unfazed and unaffected, when the truth eventually comes to light. Your silence is thus ammunition. It's a plan, not a lack of action. People are compelled to disclose themselves. They seem more desperate the more they attempt to undermine you. They seem weaker the more they assault. You triumph even if you remain silent in the meanwhile, because restraint is more powerful than loudness. Furthermore, nothing terrifies a liar more than someone who doesn't feel the need to provide evidence. One day, you'll be quoted by the same people who label you insane. At the moment, people label you excessive, roll their eyes, make fun of you, and write off everything you say as gibberish. They call you insane, mutter behind your back, and behave as if your viewpoint is too far for them to consider. The irony is that they will eventually replicate you. Although it won't happen today or tomorrow, your words will ultimately return to them, but with their name rather than yours. It always goes like that. Later, the ideas that are mocked first are the ones that are accepted. When the world catches up, the individuals who are dismissed as being out of touch are the ones whose knowledge abruptly turns into common sense. It's human nature, not just history. When truth is first spoken, most people don't realize it. Not because the truth is incorrect, but rather because it disturbs them. They oppose it, struggle against it, and even assault those who speak it. They reject it because they are not prepared to comprehend it. Furthermore, they must discredit the messenger in addition to rejecting the message. Because of this, pioneers are ridiculed before they are honored. For those who doubted you, however, time is a cruel thing. Reality sets in gradually, and what you say starts to make sense one piece at a time. They begin to see what you saw and comprehend what they used to mock. However, by that point, they have spent so much effort discrediting you that they are unable to acknowledge your correctness. What do they do then? They mimic what you say as if it were their own. They pretend to have known all along, conveniently forgetting that the exact things they now preach are the same things they previously scoffed at. They rewrite history to suit their interests. However, you'll recall their first reaction when you spoke, their skepticism, contempt, and derision. And you won't have to say, "I told you so," since they will already know when they cite you without your knowledge. Since they are battling reality itself, you will prevail. They believe they are engaged in combat with you, but they are not. They are battling reality, and nobody has ever prevailed in that conflict. You don't need to participate in their games, dispute, or prove yourself. The truth is self-evident and does not need your defense. As all of this is going on, they are devoting themselves to maintaining a reality that isn't real. To preserve their brittle sense of self, they fabricate illusions, reject truths, and distort stories. But what about illusions? They need ongoing care. Fake personalities want validation, lies require reinforcement, and the illusion disintegrates the instant they cease providing it. They seem so irritated around you because of this. Your refusal to engage in the dream poses a danger to your own survival, not because you are assaulting them. You're not complying. Their whole system is unstable because you don't conform to their interpretation of reality. When someone maintains their integrity, it sets a contrast that reveals all of the lies surrounding them. What about that contrast? For those who have based their whole existence on dishonesty, it is intolerable. The intriguing part is that there is nothing you need to do. They're ruining themselves. Their carefully crafted egos, their false confidence, and the falsehoods they convey are all unsustainable. Even if they ridicule you, laugh at you, and banish you, they will nonetheless eventually fall apart. They're already racing for the brink. You don't need to push them over it. And when their delusions disintegrate, which they inevitably do, you will remain upright and unaltered, because you accepted reality, while others wasted their time fighting against it. What about reality? It always comes out on top. Truth remains unchallenged. It doesn't matter what others say, how loud they are, or how they try to discredit you. Because what is untrue cannot exist without validation, whereas what is genuine does not need it. They will come and go, rewriting history to suit their comfort, altering their tales, and changing their viewpoints. However, you stay. You don't have to seek acceptance, defend yourself, or engage in conflicts that will eventually be resolved on their own. Reality will show them incorrect. You don't have to. Indeed, they will disparage, misinterpret, and attack you, not because you lack strength, but rather because you are powerful enough to perceive what others cannot. Additionally, they will simply wear themselves out trying to stop the inevitable while you go on unaffected. And they will see it eventually, whether they choose to accept it or not. Even if they act as if they came up with the idea first, they will still remember what you said. Even if they deny ever doubting you, they will cite you. They will see what they previously opposed become indisputable. At that point, they will understand what you have always known. You never had to win. It was always going to be they who lost. Don't keep it to yourself if this message resonated with you deeply and you sensed the truth in every word. Tell someone you think should hear it, because there is more to the truth than this. For those who are prepared to view things as they really are, there is more to discover, more to reveal, and more power. Remain realistic, keep alert, and never forget that reality always prevails.